Ordinary lives. Mark graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1982 and spent 9 years as a military pilot. Today he flies for United Airlines, writes, speaks, and teaches music to young members of Colorado's Children's Chorale. Mark has recently published his first book, and you'll find it in the back there, The Symphony of Your Life, Restoring Harmony When Your World is Out of Tune. Get this book. I bought it and I love it. It will be for sale in the back of the room after his presentation, so please welcome Mr. Mark Hardcastle.
Wow, first team meeting in 2015.
Yes.
We're off and running, folks. Are you rocking and rolling?
Yes.
Did you do your annual planning back in December? Have you got 2015 all lined out?
Probably should.
Yeah, if you do, you'll have an idea about the question I'm about to ask. There's a hypothetical question coming. If you haven't finished planning for 2015, this is going to give you something to think about. So here's the question I ask every group I get in front of these days. Why do you do what you do? Now I ask that because I had a chance to ask myself that question just over 2 years ago, back May 18th of 2012. I was over in Moab, Utah with a bunch of my friends who go there every year to ride mountain bikes. We were on our first ride of the trip. It happened to be the Porcupine Rim Trail. Any mountain bikers in here? You know Moab? Mm-hmm. Great ride, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, so we'd ridden up to the top on a van, and we'd been freewheeling down the slope towards the Colorado River overlook for about 45 minutes. And at that point, the trail crosses a paved road. So I skipped up on the pavement, back down into the dirt on the other side, and that's when I saw a little challenge in the trail. Didn't think much of it. Just a little lip in the rocks. Didn't even slow down. But I do remember thinking to myself, I'm either going to have to jump that or go around it. It's the last thing I remember from the ride. Next thing I remember is waking up, looking up at the clear blue sky. Still on the trail, but I wasn't on my bike anymore, and I wasn't moving. In fact, I couldn't move my right arm. It was paralyzed. I was about to find out my neck was broken. Before I tell you how that worked out, I'd like to pause for just a minute to say thank you to Jen and to Pam. Jen and I were new agents down in the Denver Tech Center back in what, 2005? 2002? Yeah. Okay, well, she's not as new an agent as I was back then. Down at the Tech Center, it's been fun to watch you succeed and become a team leader up here. And it's been fantastic to hear about the leadership that I know you're providing. So thank you for what you do. And for Pam, oh my goodness, folks, do you realize what kind of a champion you have over here in Pam Farrow? I work with a lot of program chairmen and in organizing these meetings and coming to this kind of thing, and nobody does it better than Pam Farrow. Absolutely. So thank you for being so good at what you do. And folks, are you all aware of the nonprofit that she does outside of Keller Williams? Champion. Give it up for Pam Farrow. So why am I here? What do I hope to accomplish on your behalf today? Well, a couple of things. Back when I was a new agent, do you remember when Gary Keller was talking about his big why years ago? And he sort of changed that. Now he's sort of recharacterized it into his one thing. Same basic idea. If you read his book, The One Thing, if you haven't, I would encourage you to do that. Help you sort of visualize, the answer to the question, why you do what you do. And I'd like to kind of piggyback on that a little bit today if I could. So the first thing I'd like to do is provide you with sort of a sense of urgency to get after it. And then I'm going to back that up with maybe some encouragement on top of that urgency. Is that okay? Can we do that today in just a few minutes that we have together? Okay, let's start with that sense of urgency, shall we? So I woke up on that trail. My nose and mouth filled with the dust of the Utah desert. The next group of riders came along, found me lying there in the dirt. Pulled out their cell phones. Thank goodness they got a signal. Got an emergency response, called 911, got the paramedics up to me onto the backboard, into the ambulance, down the hill to the Moab emergency room where we found out about the broken neck with the x-rays. But x-rays don't tell us everything we need to know about soft tissue, so they really couldn't tell how badly my spinal cord was damaged. They knew that my neck was broken, my right arm was gone. So they figured, we better find out about the spinal cord. So they decided to evacuate me on a Flight for Life helicopter up to Grand Junction. So they wheeled me out to the helicopter, strapped me down again, the helicopter lifted off for Grand Junction. This rescue that I described in less than a minute was actually several hours of chaos. But as the helicopter lifted off and headed up to Grand Junction, that chaos sort of melted away into a sense of relative calm. And I found myself thinking about the gravity of my situation. By then I knew about the broken neck, and I knew that my right arm was gone. The question that came crashing in that I couldn't push away is, how much worse is it going to get? Right arm's gone. Did I lose my left arm too? What about my legs? Are they going to quit working before I got to Grand Junction? If you follow that line of thinking just a little bit further down that trail, you come to a pretty dark place. I'm not going to say it out loud. I'll let you get there on your own. But suffice it to say that at that moment, I understood on a gut level something I'd known in my head for all my life. And that is that tomorrow is not promised.
Amen.
When that reality hit me, I was washed over by the sense of sadness and futility because I wasn't done living yet. You know, I have 4 kids. There were things that I needed to say to them I hadn't said. There were things I wanted to do with them that I had not done. Talk about a sense of urgency. Folks, why do you do what you do? Maybe more to the point, why are you doing today what you're doing today? Well, the helicopter went on to Grand Junction, landed, they wheeled me into the MRI machine, did the test, wheeled me back out. The neurosurgeon came over to give me the news. Yeah, Mark, no fooling. Neck's broken. 5 places.
Wow.
C5, 6, 7, T1, T2. That's the bad news. Good news is, no spinal cord damage. How's that work?
God.
Neck broken in 5 places, no spinal cord damage? Sounds almost like any bad joke, doesn't it? A man with a broken neck walks into a bar. Doc, what about my arm? It's paralyzed. Yeah, Mark, the nerves that control your arm are badly bruised back up here at the nerve root, but it's outside the spinal column. It'll likely recover. Sure enough, it was only a matter of hours before I began to regain function in my right hand. Well, at that point, I was given a great gift from the universe. That's not what you're thinking. You're thinking, no fooling sport, you got to walk away from a broken neck. Yeah, that was a nice gift. What I'm talking about is what happened next. The neurosurgeon trussed me up with a cervical collar. In fact, it's out there on the table. You may have seen it when you come in, that very collar. Trussed me up in that thing. He said, for the next 90 days, Mark, do not take this collar off under any circumstances. Eat, drink, sleep, shower, whatever you do, for the next 3 months, you're going to do it with this collar in place. Well, as you can imagine, that kind of cramped my style. Summer 2012. There are things I would have really liked to have done that I couldn't do with a cervical collar in place. See, this watershed event had brought my life to a screeching halt. And I was given the gift of stillness for a change. And I got to spend the summer of 2012 asking myself that question. Mark, why do you do what you do? You know, you give a monkey enough bananas in 3 months, and he'll figure it out. So I did. I've got my answers. So how about you? Why do you do what you do? Let me ask you another question along the same lines. We all have them. Pam will back me up on this. What watershed event has brought your life to a sudden stop? More importantly, how are you responding? Because as Pam will tell you, it's not about what happens to us in life. It's about how we respond. All right?
Amen.
Yeah. It's about how we respond. So why do you do what you do? You know, I think I kind of already know at least part of the answer to that question on your behalf because you're all Keller Williams agents. That tells me something. Because here at Keller Williams, we're all about building businesses worth owning, careers worth having, lives worth living. So I know that about you. But you know, those things don't appear in the palm of our hands overnight. You're going to have to work for it. You're in a great line of work. You're going to be well compensated if you keep going as long as you need to keep going. So, can you do that? Can you keep going as long as you need to? You know, we were talking about statistics a little while ago. And, you know, I read the report just like you did from RE Colorado a couple of weeks ago. It says that our inventory is down, what, 50% of what it was 3 years ago. In that same article, there was a story about a young family who were trying to buy their first house. They had put in 9 offers and been outbid on every one of them. They finally settled for a new bid. I spoke to one of my pals down in the DTC. You may remember a senior agent down there, Lee McHugh. Remember Lee?
Yes.
Yeah. Talking to her a couple months ago, she said she had this great listing that had been under contract 3 times. You know, listings are money in your pocket, but it's got to close. And I appreciate what Mary Beth, is that right?
Yes.
What Mary Beth was saying a while ago about how she's going to put money in your hands, but Lee had gotten that call that we dread 3 different times because despite Mary Beth's best efforts, money's still tight out there. And that dreaded call 3 days before from the lender who couldn't close because money was so tight. Those agents, let me tell you, they were tired. They were tired. That buyer's agent was tired as he wrote that 9th offer. Can you keep going? Are you ready for the encouragement part? I'm here to tell you that you can. You can keep going as long as you need to. You just got to know you can. When I was at the Air Force Academy, I had a chance to go to the Army's parachute training jump school down in Fort Benning, Georgia. August, South Georgia. It was hot. Let me tell you, it was hot. Learned everything I needed to know to jump out of airplanes for the Army. And you know, I learned how to put on my parachute, how to execute parachute landing fall, and all that kind of stuff. One of the things I also learned is that even though, you know, when you're coming down under a parachute, you come down slower than you would if you didn't have a parachute. Even when you got a parachute, you can still hit the ground pretty hard. And if you're not in good physical condition, you know, you can be hurt. So one of the things the jump masters work real hard at is making sure everybody's in the best possible physical condition. So I'm telling you, I did a lot of push-ups on that Georgia side. I did a lot of sit-ups. It was hot down there. Middle of the second week, the jump master showed up at the training ground and said, okay, we're going to go on a 1 mile conditioning run. So let's go. Off we went, and they set, let us say, a brisk pace. Then they got faster. They got faster again. By the time we were getting close to the end of that first mile, they said, well, we were glad to see the end coming up. I mean, we were at a full-bore sprint. And then they started to kind of tease us, taunt us a little bit. Oh, no, we were just kidding. Not going for 1 mile, we're going for 2 at this pace. Yeah, you know what happened. As soon as they said that, there were several guys fell out of the formation, had to rest. They just knew they couldn't go another 4 mile. Certainly not at that pace. Reality was nobody had to go another mile. Those of us who kept running went maybe another 100 yards. Jump masters called us to a halt. Let us stop, catch our breath. They didn't say anything as we walked back to join our friends who had given up just a few yards short of the end. They're letting the lesson of the day become self-evident, weren't they? If you believe you can keep going as long as you need to, you're probably right. If you believe you can't, you're probably right about that too. It's always mind over matter. You can keep going as long as you need to. Just you need to know you can have that business, that career, that life. I was one of those that kept going. But you know, I failed that day. Why did I say I failed? This guy right here next to me, he's one of those that fell out. I failed for 2 reasons. One was he didn't tell me he was about out of gas. The second was because I was so consumed with my own burning lungs that I wasn't looking around for folks who might not make it. So I have a couple challenges for you. Do we have any ALC people in here today? ALC, raise your hands. Okay, I'm going to have a challenge for you here in just a second. But for everybody else, here's my first challenge for you. After you write that 8th or 9th offer, you're tired. After you've got that listing, it doesn't close for whatever reason, you're tired. When you feel like you can't knock on one more door, when you feel like you just can't pick up that phone one more time, let somebody know. Call Jim. Call Pam. Call Kathy. They've got the resources to keep you going until you can go again on your own. You know who else has the resources? all those folks who just raised their hands. When I was a new agent, I didn't know who they were down in the tech center. I hope you all know who the ALC members are. ALC members, I've got another challenge for you. I know you're busy. I know your lungs are burning. You're sprinting just as hard as anybody else in this office. You got your own business to run. My challenge for you is look up, look around. There are folks who are about to run out of gas. You've got a little extra. Grab a hold of them, bring them along. Folks, it's been great to be with you today. Just a minute, we're going to go back to our lives, our businesses. I got some books back there. I'd love to sign one, put it in your hands. As you go back to your offices, you're all going to have great success. I can see that. Those challenges are going to come up. When they do, I hope you'll think about that urgency we felt with me on that helicopter. And I hope you'll think about those jump masters down in Fort Benning, how they reminded us that we can keep going as long as we need to. We just need to know we can. If you'll do those things, we can't help but have extraordinary lives, those businesses, those careers, those lives worth living. And there'll be no doubt in anyone's mind, most importantly, your own mind, about why you do what you do. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today, folks. Thank you so much.
Speaking of ALC, on the second page of your agenda, you'll see the new ALC members for this year, and you will see the outgoing ALC members for last year. So Tara Forrester, Barb Clifford, James Button, Tasha Williams,